everybody, Christina here. Happy you joined us for Crafty Courses. I am going to show you today how to make a really cute card. So I'm going to start out with some Fossilized Amber Distress ink, and I'm going to ink up the patterned paper so that it will match my little Wolverine Wonder Girl Meadow that I colored. And I don't really blend this well with the ink. Since this is distress ink instead of distress oxide, it does take me a little bit longer, so I have sped up the video so I look super cool and you think I go that fast. So a few of the spots are a little bit darker than the other spots, and that's okay because this is going to be a background layer, so it's okay, nobody will see it except for me and you. But I'm just inking this up, trying to get it to be the same color yellow as the Wolverine girl. And I love how this is coming together because it's going to give it that vintage comic book look, and it's really fun because it's black and white, so you can add any color you want to go with whatever theme you're going for. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this down to 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm just going to cut off some of these black and white pieces that didn't get any ink and just get it down to the 3 3/4 by 5 piece that I need, because on top I'm going to be using the on the cover stamp set just like this, and I want to use distress inks to color it. So what I'm going to do is I have a second one of these that I have cut up to mask the pieces, and I'm just going to use a bit of washi tape. And I did it this way instead of using the masking paper just because, well, I didn't think about my masking paper for some reason, if I'm being honest. So I decided to do it the hard way, apparently. But at least you know you can do this with just paper if you don't have any masking tape or the magic masking from Gina K. But I do love the Gina K masking magic if you have any. So I'm just putting all of that down, and I'm going to go ahead and color in. I keep saying color, but I don't know what you call it. I don't use all the fancy terms that some people use, but I'm going to be ink blending some of the salty ocean into the center here, and I'm just going to go ahead and get all of it, and then I'm going to go ahead and do the top and the bottom as well. That way everything that has those little lines is going to be turning blue. And this is the distress oxide of the salty ocean, so you can see it's a little bit easier for me to blend. So I'm just getting all of that. I'm going to move my washi tape from the bottom to the top so I can go ahead and get that bottom bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and take these off, and I'm going to be using some Candied Apple for the part at the bottom that is just the straight line where, you know, I made it big enough to where sentiments could go there. And then also the part where it has amazing, I'm going to be using the Candied Apple for that as well. So I'm going to cover the I guess the main part of the stamp. I'm going to cover that, and I'm going to cover the tops and the bottoms just so that I don't get any red into the blue. So go ahead and cover this. Now if you don't want your letters to be colored like this with the ink, with the distress ink, then I would definitely be using some of the Gina K magic masking so that you can just mask those letters, and you can color them with a different distress, or you can color them with Copics. I have a plan for mine, so mine are going to be colored with the distress ink. And I also just went ahead and used washi tape for the limited edition, where you put the edition number on your comic book with the washi tape, because it was actually the perfect size. I was kind of amazed at that. So now just going over it with the candied ink, making sure that I get all of it. I'm going to be doing this top bit here, and then I'm going to be doing that bottom part where you put the sentiments. So just making sure I'm getting all that nice and even, because that will show. Now I'm going to go ahead and get the bottom part, but I'm covering the very, very bottom with a piece of paper so that I don't go into the blue ink. Now after this is done, I'm going to be going back to the Fossilized Amber Distress ink. That way I can get that little bit of the limited edition cover, that little bit there. So I'm going to be using the amazing part that I used at the very beginning to cover the red. And I'm going to cut out that one little spot. That way I don't get the red on the other side of that box as well. Now I did have a little bit of trouble doing this, so definitely again Gina K Masking Magic, that's what it's called. Will really help out, or a post-it note or something. That one little thin piece is the piece that I had the most issue with, so I was trying to use the top of my blending brush, which I also convinced myself that I need the smaller pencil-sized blending brush for small areas like this. But I do actually wisen up about halfway through and get a piece of paper to just go ahead and block off the top and block off the side. So here's where I go ahead and, yep, there's the piece of paper. So I can at least block that bit off and get that corner really good. And then I'm going to go ahead and use a piece of paper for the edge. So now that that's all done, it kind of matches my girl and I'm really happy with it. I'm going to go ahead and grab the second one that is stamped, or actually the third I should say, because this one I'm going to be just coloring the letters, and I'm going to be cutting them out fussy cut. I know, insane, I understand this, but I want it to be kind of like this card. And because I love the way the red and the yellow kind of feather in together, and I thought that would look great with the Candied Apple background. So I'm going to start out with some yellows. We're going to be using Y19, Y17, and Y15, and we're going to feather them all together, and then we will we're going to blend these together, and then we'll start in with the red. I'm starting with the darkest color first, and I'm starting at the top. That way the two dark colors come in to be lighter in the center. And that was Y19, this is Y17, and I'm just pulling it down And then the Y15 that I'm going to use now is just, I'm going to pull it down about halfway. It's okay if it goes a little bit further than halfway, because we're going to blend the red right into that yellow. So I'm going to flip it around and I'm going to use R29, and I'm going to just do the very tips of the bottom of the letters. And I'm going to be blending all of this into the yellow. So we're going to use R29, R17, and R05. So here's the R17. I'm pulling that R29 out. I'm just trying to make sure that I get all of it in there. And then I'm going to use the R05 so that I can feather those in. And you always want to use, well, I use my lighter colors to go ahead and feather those in together until you go ahead and you like the rest of it. But I think it looks really great when you blend them in together, and they just look like, it just looks great. So now I'm going to take a white pen, white gel pen, and I'm going to do all the little shine lines on here, and then I will cut them out. I'm actually going to speed this up so that you don't have to suffer watching me cut these out, because it did actually take about 30 minutes for me to cut these out because I was being really slow and getting all the nooks and crannies. And when I cut them out, I stayed right on the black lines. That way it would really just blend in to the background and look like it was supposed to be there. You know, like it's not, you won't be able to tell that it's popped up. Yes, I am going to pop it up. I'm a little bit crazy with this card, but I really wanted a fun, wow kind of a card. So almost done cutting these out. Just a couple of letters to go. And then we will slow it back down. So at first, I thought I was going to go ahead and glue these down and just make it flat. But then I decided, I got the crazy idea to pop them up, and that's when I started to go ahead and cut the pieces of 3D foam so that they would fit on the back of each of the letters. Now you can see how small the I, the N, and even the G are. So that was a bit tricky. So I'm just going to go ahead and get all these down, and I'm going to speed this up because I don't think you really, you know, care to see me struggle with these little teeny tiny pieces of 3D foam. I will say that I'm extremely happy that I had some tweezers, and I don't normally use tweezers very often, but wow, was I using them for this. So even with this sped up a little bit, it still took a hot minute to get all of these done. But after getting it done in the way that it looks, I think you would be really happy with it if you did the same thing, because it really adds that wow effect. Not sure if the wow is because the person will think you're crazy for doing this, or because the fact that it really does look pretty cool. The G was probably the hardest because of the circles and having to go around, but I did succeed in getting it finished. And the rest of it, after doing all of that, the rest of it is pretty simple. It's just putting everything together and making sure I get all those little tiny pieces out of the way. So I have my Wonder Girl Meadow, and I have one of the little logos from the Wonder Dog Gracie, and I'm just gluing her down flat. Wonder Girl Meadow is going to be popped up with a 3D foam, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and just glue on the cover to my black 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Or excuse me, this is 3 3/8 by 4 3/8 piece of black cardstock. And all these measurements will be below as well as in your supply list. So I'm putting this piece onto a 3 7/8 by 5 1/8 piece of black cardstock. And these two red shiny pieces, these actually came in 2-inch strips when they were given to me by a friend. So I just left these in a 2-inch strip, which will make it 4 wide. And then I cut them both at 5 1/4. So I'm just laying those down side by side, and I do actually put them on just slightly crooked, and you can see that right there. And I actually pointed out, so right there. And so you can either cover it one way, but the way that I wanted to lay it out, it doesn't quite work. So I'm going to end up covering it up with a sentiment, and it will all work out. So I'm going to go ahead and put 3D foam on the back of each one of my layers. And I always put one in the middle just so that if it's going through the mail, or so it doesn't start to droop over time. I'm going to take all of the little papers off and lay that down. And at first I thought I would lay it that way, but it wasn't going to work out for what was in my mind's eye of how I wanted the card to look. So I just went ahead and laid it down the way I had originally planned. Now I'm putting some 3D foam onto the back of this layer. And we will go ahead and just put this offset this a little bit to the left side. Try and straighten this out, make sure I get it on at the right place. And then some 3D foam on the back of Wonder Girl Meadow. And then I need to color the "Oh my God" sentiment, and the "You're Unstoppable" is what I'm going to use to cover that one little bit that was off. But I put her down too low, so I just ripped her off and moved her up a little bit so that you could see the sentiment. And now the sentiment kind of takes your eyes away from the fact that my paper is crooked. So I'm going to color the "Oh my God," and I need to I just took a black, or the 100 Copic, and just put in number 1. And now we're going to go ahead and use the red markers and the yellow markers to go ahead and do this. Oh, never mind, I changed my mind to red. So we're going to use R29 for the O. The M and the G, we're going to go ahead and get that color just where the shadows would be. Then we'll pull that out with R17. And we can't forget to do the exclamation point. Then I'm going to use R05 to finish that up. And then I'll use W1 for the cloud. I'm just going along the edges of the letter and just around the edges of the cloud. And I'll finish coloring that in with W0. And then we're going to move on to the yellow markers, and I'm going to use Y15, and I'm going to do the little stars. And then we'll go back to the W1 really fast because I forgot to get inside the O. And I'm not exactly liking the way that looks, so we're going to go back to the yellow markers, and we're going to just go ahead and use Y15 to color the outside of all of that so that it's not white. And then I'm just going to put that on with some glue and just make it flat. And that is our vintage kind of card. I hope you like it. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoy the crafty courses, and I will see you next time. Bye everybody. Happy crafting.